Hey everyone, I'm Kevin Russell and this is my video presentation for toxicology on the synthetic drug Cialis. The drug is going to be ingested orally, heading ultimately to its targeted lumbar myocytes to exert its therapeutic effects. Cialis is the brand name given to the synthetic organic drug tadalafil, marketed as a capsule. It is sold for its effects as a phosphodiesterase or PDE inhibitor, which will be elaborated upon later. It was approved for public sale by the US FDA in November 2003 to treat erectile dysfunction, or ED, and also in 2011 for the treatment of benign prostatic hyperplasia, or BPH. Typical doses of Cialis can range from 2.5 milligrams to 20 milligrams. A dose of 10 milligrams or greater is known to be effective for up to 36 hours. This has earned Cialis the nickname, the weekend pill. As the drug is sold as a tablet, oral ingestion is the most common route of entry. The likelihood of an organism accidentally coming into contact with this synthetic molecule is very slim. Tadalafil is a relatively small organic molecule and has a half-life of 17.5 hours, much longer than other ED medications. The molecule itself has a mixture of hydrophilic and hydrophobic moieties. The structure features some aromatic functionality with a phenolic and indole derivative, as well as a dioxyl and two hydrophilic amide functional groups. The hydrophobic character of the molecule dominates with a predicted log POW value of between 1.64 and 2.36. Although the molecule does have a strongest acidic and basic group, the molecule will not be ionized to any extent within the body. The fact that tadalafil is uncharged and is predicted to be mostly hydrophobic makes it a great candidate for simple diffusion across cell membranes. The absorption of tadalafil is limited by its solvation rate. Thus, tadalafil is considered a Class II biopharmaceutical by the US FDA, which is reserved for drugs that have a high membrane permeability but low solubility. That being said, an oral ingestion of tadalafil will take an average of 2 hours to attain a maximum blood concentration, with 80% being bioavailable following first-pass metabolism by the liver. Tadalafil will be capable of undergoing simple diffusion into the intestinal epithelial cells anywhere along the digestive tract. Its absorption is not compromised by consuming with food or alcohol. The target area for Cialis in this presentation will be the lumbar myocytes, which are the visceral skeletal muscle cells of the lower back. These muscles are not involved in the therapeutic treatment of ED, but are one of the other areas of the body targeted by the unspecific PDE inhibitor, which can lead to some unwanted side effects. Lumbar myocytes are composed of many smaller fibers called myofibrils, which are in turn composed of long repeating units called sarcomeres. Each myocyte is encased by a sarcolemma, which is transversed by T-tubules and are surrounded by the sarcoplasmic reticulum. As tadalafil is absorbed anywhere along the digestive tract, the drug will be transported by the intestinal epithelial cells to the liver via the hepatic portal vein. From the liver, the drug enters systemic circulation. The lumbar myocytes are located in the lower back. As blood is circulated around the body, the aorta bifurcates into two major arteries, one being the common iliac artery, which branches into the internal iliac artery. This is the main source of blood for the lower portion of the body. As previously mentioned, tadalafil is characterized by its low solubility and high permeability, and will exist with 94% of the molecule binding to plasma proteins. Its long half-life allows for an 80% bioavailability, with a volume of distribution of 63 liters. Tadalafil is not significantly stored elsewhere in the body. A phosphodiesterase is an enzyme which catalyzes the breakage of a phosphodiester bond, including in cyclic nucleotides, or CNs. CNs, like cyclic guanosine monophosphate, or CGMP, are important secondary cellular messengers. Thus, the degradation of CNs leads to a loss of cellular signal, and the introduction of a PDE inhibitor, or PDEI, can help keep CN concentrations relatively high. CNs interact with their respective dependent protein kinase, like PKG, to phosphorylate proteins, causing downstream cellular events. Following sexual stimulation, a signal from the brain will cause acetylcholine to be released. Acetylcholine is a regulator for nitric oxide synthase in endothelial cells, causing nitric oxide, or NO, to be produced. NO then diffuses into the smooth muscle where it activates soluble guanylyl cyclase, or SGC. This enzyme is responsible for catalyzing the conversion of guanosine triphosphate, GTP, to CGMP. CGMP is then free to activate PKG, which will phosphorylate a number of proteins including myosin light chain kinase, which decreases its function. This leads to the dephosphorylation of myosin light chain, causing muscle to relax. As well, PKG causes the cellular membrane to become hyperpolarized through an influx of sodium and potassium ions with increased sodium-potassium ATPase activity. This greatly reduces active calcium transport into the cell, causing intracellular calcium ions to be sequestered by the sarcoplasmic reticulum, contributing to a decrease in calcium ion concentration and supporting muscle relaxation. However, people who have ED suffer from low concentrations of cGMP in a normal sexual response. Thus, the introduction of a PDEI like tadalafil allows intracellular cGMP concentrations to increase, permitting the desired muscle relaxation. The smooth muscle of the penis is the most common target for tadalafil due to its high concentration of PDE5. However, tadalafil doesn't exhibit great specificity between PDE5 and PDE11A, which leads us into the target of this presentation, the lumbar myocytes. The mechanism of tadalafil as a PDE5 inhibitor is the reason for the therapeutic value of Cialis. Tadalafil interacts with PDE5 by forming a hydrogen bond to glutamate 817. The cyclic methylene dioxyphenyl then forms additional noncovalent bonds through hydrophobic interactions with the pocket of histidine residues. This molecule exhibits several thousand times more selectivity for the PDE5 isozyme than most other PDEs. However, the selectivity for PDE5 over PDE11A is only 14:1. Thus, at therapeutic concentrations, the activity of the PDE11A isozyme can be inhibited. PDE5 and PDE11A are both expressed and active in the skeletal muscle of the body, including the lumbar myocytes. The inhibition of the activity of PDE5, as just discussed, will result in an accumulation of cGMP and ultimately the relaxation of muscle and low intracellular calcium ion concentration. PDE11A is a phosphodiesterase responsible for the degradation of cGMP as well as CAMP. Thus, the inhibition of PDE11A contributes to an increase in levels of both cyclic nucleotides. An increase in CAMP concentrations allows for the activation of CAMP-dependent protein kinase, or PKA. PKA phosphorylates many proteins including phospholambin. When dephosphorylated, phospholambin exists to inhibit the regular function of the sarcoplasmic reticulum calcium ion ATPase. Thus, increased cellular CAMP levels contribute to a sequestering of calcium ions by the sarcoplasmic reticulum, further decreasing intracellular calcium concentrations and promoting muscle relaxation. In addition, PKA activity in skeletal muscle contributes to free glucose production by stimulating glycogenolysis and inhibiting glycogenesis. As the effects of Cialis can last for up to 36 hours, this can be active for a long period of time and has the possibility of producing negative effects on local tissue. The organism as a whole will experience pain in their lower back from the effects of tadalafil at the lumbar myocytes. This side effect is present in 7% of people who take Cialis. If a tadalafil molecule is not subjected to first-pass elimination, metabolism can be very slow. This is because an active tadalafil molecule must successfully dissociate from a PDE, transverse the cytosol without becoming rebound by a PDE, and enter the bloodstream where it can be delivered to the liver. The metabolism of tadalafil is performed by the hepatic enzyme cytochrome P450-3A4, which converts the molecule to a catechol metabolite. This is the result of a phase 1 oxidation reaction that replaces the dioxyl functional group with 2 nucleophilic alcohol moieties. The tadalafil catechol is now capable of undergoing phase 2 conjugation reactions. The hydroxyl group, acting as a nucleophile, can attack the electrophilic uragine diphosphate glucuronic acid via the enzyme glucuronyl transferase. This makes the molecule more hydrophilic, promoting excretion. As well, methylation of the hydroxyl groups may occur by a methyltransferase. The most common metabolite is a methyl catechol glucuronide, with methyl catechol derivatives consisting of less than 10% of the concentration of this metabolite. Methyl catechol glucuronide is 10,000 times less active than tadalafil. Finally, tadalafil is excreted predominantly in the form of the methyl catechol glucuronide metabolite with lesser amounts of others. Almost none is excreted as tadalafil. Approximately 2/3 is excreted through the feces and the other third in the urine. The mean oral clearance for tadalafil is 2.5 liters per hour.